Let's not keep our guests waiting, as we are now being joined by Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, a former Air Force intelligence officer, senior military advisor in the Lake Chad region, and program analyst on counterterrorism and de-radicalization. He's currently in Madagascar, where he's overseeing a military assignment for the African Union. Good morning, Group Captain. Good to have you join us today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Well, I'm sure that you are pretty much familiar with at least two of the unfortunate developments around the military in Nigeria. One in Lagos, in which a young officer, who was said to be under the influence, killed a brigadier general in the car accident. And then the other, far more, equally unfortunate one in the northeast of Nigeria, where another soldier went berserk, shot a colleague, shot another staff of a supporting, non-governmental organization, and then wounded a pilot. Unfortunately for the latter, the gentleman involved, the officer involved, has been shot dead, as you are aware. What sort of an issue do you think that we're dealing with our military? Is this a question of, post-traumatic stress disorder, or is there something that the military formations should be worried about in terms of, their officers, basically?
Thank you very much. First, let me give the caveat that we do not have much information about the shooting in Maiduguri of the soldier that shot his colleagues and humanitarian worker. So most of the things that I'm going to say, I'll be talking generally on what could likely happen to a soldier when he's in deployment at the front lines. The first one you mentioned of the incident, of the unfortunate incident of a drunken soldier who killed a brigadier general in the barracks, I think we can dispense with that purely as something of kind of indiscipline or lack of controls within the barracks, because I think this was a self-inflicted injury or something that I think the soldier did because there were no controls or lacks, discipline from him. So we may not probably equate it with what happened in Maiduguri, where we had the other unfortunate incident. Again, like I said, I emphasize the jury is still out on what happened to the soldier. But as people who study things that have to do with mental health and operational issues, there are things that we can say, even without having much fact about what happened or what could have likely happened in Maiduguri. Especially given that, the fact that for those of us that keep records, it's not the first time that we're hearing of such incidents, either a soldier going berserk and shooting himself, or even shooting other people, committing suicide, such things have happened before. So which brings that we must, as observers in military affairs, we must start to ask questions. Does this have to do with some mental health of soldiers? Now, the issue of PTSD is not only soldiers that have PTSD. Anybody who has gone through a stressful, traumatic event, or has witnessed, cataclysmic events, like you are standing 10 in a group in your section in the army as it is, and then an incident happened, 7 people are wiped out, you see your colleague bleeding. Everybody has his breaking point. Any man has his breaking point. What military training does is to raise the level of your breaking point. But having said that, not any 10 soldiers or any 2 soldiers will have the same breaking point. That is what soldier A can support, that is what soldier B cannot support. So looking at that, we have to look at what the experts say about PTSD and soldiers. For a long time, there has been research on what could, the circumstances in the battlefield that could make a soldier to be prone to post-traumatic stress disorder. Issues like being in a lonely place, being away from the family, watching colleagues, sometimes very close friends dying, sometimes in your hands, lack of sleep. Because I want people to understand, whereas even in normal times, the work of a military man or a policeman is very stressful, the ones that are deployed in the battlefield, theirs is even more stressful. For a normal soldier or policeman, he will work Monday to Friday, maybe he's even on shift, he will go on break, he will attend naming ceremonies, he will visit families, he will return to his family, he will attend weddings and the rest. That relaxes him. For the soldier that is in the front, it is a 24/7 engagement. No Christmas break, no Salah break, no weekend, because the attack might come every time. You are always looking out over your shoulder. So this kind of things, as a human being, they add the stress on a soldier. So that is why the risk of PTSD is higher on a soldier. And experts, because of that, experts have given ideal timelines for which a soldier should be deployed in the battlefield. For example, if you do a research on most of the militaries, they have a standard duty tour in a deployment. When I say deployment now, it's opposite to just staying in the barrack doing normal routine work. In the battlefield, all the militaries I checked, they have a standard, duty tour of ranging from 6 to 18 months. 6 to 18 months. In fact, most they do 6 to 12 months. What does it mean? If a soldier is put under that stressful, condition for 12 months maximum, you have to pull him out. He has to go and visit his family. He has to go and rest before another person takes up. That's why people that are experts in how militaries, the size of militaries, they always say that for any soldier that is in the front line, there are 4 other soldiers behind him. For each one soldier taking care of his logistic needs in the military and in the battlefield, one soldier training to come and replace him, one soldier resting, one soldier back in the barrack taking care of the family that the soldier that's there. So ideally, for any soldier you have in the battlefield, you should have 4 other people. That allows you to rotate, that allows you to maintain that ideal deployment time, of which I said ranges between 12 to 12 months, maximum 18 months. However, we have been saying it over a length of time because of the security challenges, because of the multiple operations, and because we do not have enough soldiers. You find soldiers going prolonged, deployments. I personally have interviewed a soldier who has deployed for 5 years unbroken. 5 years unbroken. You could have others doing 2 years, 3 years, and even the ones that get relieved, you may be relieved from the northeast, and then you are sent to the north central, or you are sent to Jos, or you are sent to Makodi, where again you are going to be fighting bandits or Zamfara. So sometimes even the ones that are pulled out of the northeast is not really a release, because what normally is supposed to happen is that when you leave the battlefield, you go and rest, sometimes for up to 6 or 12 months. In those 12 months, you'll bond with your family, you will return for the next deployment. At least your mind will be at rest. But unfortunately, due to lack of numbers, here I don't know who to blame. We don't have the numbers. So since you don't have numbers, you keep rotating the soldiers, you keep keeping them for long duration, and experts are unanimous. After the 3rd deployment, the risk of PTSD happening to a soldier raises. Now, what is PTSD? It is something, that makes you to have flashbacks, to have dreams, to have fits of anger, fits of annoyance. From what I gathered, the little I gathered, that soldier, before he shot at the aircraft, he was mumbling something. We don't know what it was. For me, as an expert on this area, I would like to know that particular soldier, for how long has he been deployed? I would like to know that. I would like to know what is his, even if he has been deployed or returned before, how many times has he gone? Because it will make me to compare what I know about the incidence of PTSD and whether this guy. But without knowing that, I cannot make any categorical statement. Like I said, I am talking generally.
All right.
But notwithstanding what happened or didn't happen, the fact that our soldiers stay for long deployments without rotation is something that cannot be disputed. And I think the military authorities, through the political masters, because the political masters that will give the military authorities more numbers to enable them to to make rotations. We are not doing rotations as it is. And when PTSD strikes, different people, like I said, each man has his breaking point. Some people have ways of relaxing by calling the wife. But again, when I say calling the wife, it's not even always that you have internet connectivity. So you may not have that. Some people take to drugs. Some soldiers take to just to relax and cope up with the stress in the battlefield. So but if you look at, we go for United Nations peacekeeping operations. When Nigeria goes to United peacekeeping operations, the United Nations will insist that after 12 months, your soldiers must go on leave. We do that when you go to the UN. In fact, they are of operation to go on leave. Whether even if you're civilian staff with the UN in a stressful area or hardship area, you must go on leave. And it's not even going on leave and staying in your home. The UN will insist that you must leave that operational area and travel wherever you want to go. If you like, go to the skies, but you must leave before you go back.
Right.
They did
Group
this
Captain
as a result of...
Yeah. Group Captain Shehu, thank you. I have to come in there very quickly, please. Surely an unfortunate series of events here that have taken place over the last, this course. But could you please bring us to speed on what are some of the likely measures being taken to address these particular issues? Of course, you've spoken about a rotational plan so far, but this also sounds as though it's a band-aid approach. What kinds of hands-on efforts have been made to tackle the issues, particularly for these military officials who are undergoing or going through mental health issues and PTSD?
Okay. Again, with due respect, while we always encourage the Nigerian military and the Nigerian system to get better, it is not as if to say there is nothing being done. But probably, to be fair, we could say maybe what has been done is not enough. Like, for example, in the Nigerian doctrine of military operations, you see each unit that is deploying, you will find what they call a chaplain. A chaplain may be a Christian pastor, a Muslim imam that escorts the soldiers. Because we being very religious people, you know, sometimes there is some solace that a soldier can get by confiding in his chaplain that I'm getting sleepless nights, I'm having flashbacks, and the rest. Maybe sometimes a talk with the chaplain will ease these things. These things are being done. But how meticulously are being done for each unit that is in front, that I cannot say. Again, secondly, if you remember just a few weeks ago, the wife of Mr. President was at the launching of a PTSD center, or is it a research institution? I really cannot know, that the armed forces is trying to bring in. In fact, what is very important, the First Lady informed us that the President himself has suffered bouts of PTSD that lasted with him right from the Civil War. So these are the issues. So what I'm saying, there are things that have been done. Probably. However, there is a lot that needs to be done. For example, their mental health. You know, some people leave the battleground, but they are still goes back to the family, takes his gun and shoot down his wife and children. That has happened. We've had officers committing suicide. And when you check, but again, keeping tracks and keeping records is very important. We have to find these people that do these shootings. Are there common things with them? Are there multiple deployments? Are there long deployments? Unfortunately, we are not good at keeping records. But then, even these researches or follow-ups, they are purely in the realm of mental health, psychology. So probably the military in itself may not have the capacity to do these things. But what other militaries do is to subcontract such issues to experts that will make, you know, definitive researches and find out, why did soldier A do this thing? Why did officer A do this thing? If they find a common thread, it is then you will start finding. So in essence, what I'm saying, there are things by policy, because unfortunately, again, we are good at policy, sometimes we are not good at implementation. By policy, there are things like posting of chaplain. There is even a policy on going on leave. There's a policy, you know, like as I've just pointed out, that when we go to an operation, we follow this policy because the UN insists on 12 months, go home. 12 months, go home. In fact, sometimes we change the whole battalion or company, as the case may be. We should be doing this for our personnel, because most personnel that have these issues, they didn't have these issues when they joined the military. You are perfectly working young men and women. So when, as a result of the job they are doing, some mental problems, the military or the government or the country as a whole has a duty to see that they do a lot to help those people, because they didn't inherit those things. It is as a result of the work they are doing for you and me and for the country that they got into this thing. I would like to see more, you know, policies, more doctrines, more training on how we tackle mental health. It is not something to be ashamed of. Anybody can be a victim of that. It is not being macho or anything. It could happen to anybody.
All right. The initiative that you actually referred to, it's a center, not a research institute. It's the Armed Forces PTSD Center, and it's actually an initiative of the Defense and Police Officers Wives Association, and that was where the First Lady Aisha Buhari spoke about, you know, the post-traumatic experience of her husband, President Muhammadu Buhari. My question to you, therefore, is, given what the First Lady said, that the army didn't do much, and that she had to basically nurse him back to, to mental fitness, so to say, for a very long time. Do you think that how much of long-term effect do you think that those who might have suffered, PTSD, how much of long-term effect can it have on them, especially if they now eventually found themselves in positions of authority or in elective positions, that is totally different from the military, even when they have been nursed back to, to normalcy? Does it have a long-term effect on the kind of decisions that they take and their outlook generally, as, officers who had suffered PTSD previously?
Well, thank you very much. First, I will say maybe it is a good thing that we have the wife of the current commander-in-chief who remembered what her husband went through. But the truth is that most PTSD cases are not known. People retire and go and suffer alone in their villages without being. It happens now because she is the wife of the president, and the president is the current commander-in-chief. That's why we're hearing this. For every commander-in-chief who becomes president, there are thousands and thousands of soldiers who are suffering from this PTSD, who are back in their villages. Most, many military men are marked for the rest of their life from the experiences they witness in the battlefield. And it is not all of them that we hear about them. Most soldiers go back to their villages. Some become, a very lively person, becomes very quiet. You don't know. Some, they go and become violent. Some people still, long years after the war, they are still fighting the war. I have heard of a soldier who came back to Abuja after a Northeast, just doing normal guard duty. And then one day he just started shouting, they are attacking, bringing his gun and cocking it. This kind of flashbacks can really happen, and we do not know exactly how long. But what is essential to know is that it is more acute immediately after the deployment. But it could last for some people for the rest of their lives. So I think it is something that we need to bring to the public awareness, because like I said, we owe a duty. We owe a duty to every soldier or officer that was deployed and he came back with his mental health impaired. It is not that we have used him and then we will discard him. There is a lot more that needs to be done. On the borrowing from what happens in other places, if you would do respect, if you ask me, we may not necessarily need a specialized center, for that PTSD. We have well-renowned hospitals that are into mental health. I mean, by way of maximizing the use of our resources, the military or the Ministry of Defense in particular, which I don't see them playing a lot of role, it's Ministry of Defense because they're in charge of the military. They could, they could dedicate a center in one of the existing specialist hospitals we have to do that. If you do that, like I said, PTSD is not only a military issue. By doing that, you save money, and also more people will benefit from it, and you even improve the capacity of these research centers. So if you ask me, that is my honest opinion, I do not think we need to do another specialist center for that. We have renowned Aro Medical Clinic, so many clinics that I'm not in the medical profession, but I know we have, and I know renowned psychologists and psychiatrists who can do this work without necessarily having a center. Bottom line, we need to do more for our soldiers. We need to look after their mental health. It is a problem. And it is not a shameful thing for the military to be upfront with the statistics. I keep these statistics, and I think here I pick one, here I pick two. I have over 10 of such incidents that happened, though we do not have conclusory evidence to know what happened because we do not carry out the research. Like this one that happened now, like I said. Valid questions to ask, how long has that guy deployed? How many times has he deployed? Has he complained to friends? There is an incident that I had in that notice. A man started complaining, a soldier started complaining to his colleagues that, look, it's like everybody doesn't like me in this world. Everybody hates me. Nobody listened to him. 2-3 days later, that soldier shot some people and shot himself. I have conversed with soldiers during a training who told me they were there when this thing happened. 2 days to the time, this man was complaining. These are the signs of PTSD set in. He said nobody likes him, nobody loves him. People were trying, nobody listened to him. They are thinking that, this is something. 2 days later, this guy shot himself and shot some people with him.
But in examining, Group Captain Shehu, on that point, please, while examining incidents like this, if we're going to dissect it, how do we begin to make a clear distinction between mental health-related triggers and situations of sheer indiscipline? Because this could also be masked. It could manifest itself in different forms. How do we know that the guy was shooting people around is actually not just taking advantage of what has been masked as PTSD?
Okay, so definitely, like I told you, the first case you brought of the unfortunate soldier that, drove recklessly in the barrack and killed an officer, certainly here you see a case of indiscipline. Now, when you come to the deployments, well, indiscipline might be related.
Okay, Steve, it appears that we've lost Group Captain Shehu there for a minute. But while we try to reconnect to him, this is a very, this is a triggering point for me actually, because how do we know? Where do we begin to make that clear distinction? It could be indiscipline, it could be PTSD, it could be mental health, but how do we know?
It could be anything really, which is the point of what I think that the Association of the Wives of the Military and the Police are trying to do by that kind of a center. And my understanding of the center is not just a place where you are treated. It's also a place where you get to know, what actually happens, what sort of, information will be needed, what can guide, information, so that when officers start to develop, strange behavior, this is what, So I'm surprised a bit that a Group Captain Shehu will say that a center is not needed, if something happens to them to Arrow. I don't think that,
it's very important to have one.
Sorry?
I think it's very important to have a center.
Absolutely, and an effective one for that matter, because in the absence of the kind of what America has, and the United States has what they call the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. We do not have that here. Our officers who have served gallantly, who left the military, who looks after them, if you know what I mean. I mean, in the U.S., for example, between 11 to 12 veterans out of every 100, is believed to be suffering from one form of, PTSD or another. Do we even have, facts and figures here? Do we have anybody collecting, that sort of information? If you start developing, either while you are still in the military or outside of it, if you start developing such, mannerisms, strange behaviors, where are you taking to? A center like this is necessary. I believe that, of course, people will need to interrogate further, what the wives of the military and the police officers are trying to do. But it's very much needed, because this thing is growing. Look at the case, for example, of the young lady reportedly who served with the DSS, who got proposed to a few days before then, and all of a sudden was driven to the Third Mainland Bridge in Lagos and then jumped into the lagoon. I think the DSS confirmed that she was, an officer with the DSS. We wouldn't know, for example, what has happened. We wouldn't know the sort of argument that they claimed happened between her, and the husband. I'm saying that it is not just when you are, at the battlefront. Yes. Once you're serving,
the moment you're deployed,
once you're deployed,
this should take course immediately.
Absolutely.
Because you're not dealing with, it's a different kind of realm. And I would understand why even you have cases of PTSD, but I don't think this should be debated at all. No. I think we have Group Captain Shehu back with us. Group Captain Shehu?
Yes, hello.
It's good to have you back. So you could please carry on that chain of thought. You were talking to us about making distinctions about clear cases of mental health related triggers and indiscipline.
Yes, a soldier who went and drank beer or took drugs without any cause and then, shot people or shot himself or injured himself, that is purely indiscipline. But in PTSD, yes, I've seen people trying to link it with indiscipline, but I think there are two different cases. It has nothing to do with indiscipline. This, like I said, every man or every woman have their breaking point. So if the breaking point of somebody reaches based on the situation he found himself, you cannot say that he's under the control of his actions or reactions. However, like I said, it is the duty of the employer here, the military, to keep sure that mental health issues are really taken into account. I just gave you the example of a soldier who 2 days before shooting himself was telling everybody, nobody likes me, nobody loves me. It was a symptoms. So again, for the soldiers that have that, what does that tell me? It means they themselves, they are not aware of what PTSD is. If those soldiers who have that man talking that they don't like me, talking like that, if they had even the basic training on PTSD, they will know this is a trigger. They will either inform their commander, and when the commander has that man will be isolated. A chaplain will be sent to him. But I'm sure some of them, what they had, this is a life story that, I got from soldiers. They probably laughed, and then until this guy shot. The guy who was telling me this story, he said he felt very bad for not reporting. He was there when this guy was complaining. So what does that tell you? Not only as a preventive measure, as an awareness measure, all military personnel should be given, a small lecture on PTSD, because that could save their own lives. That could even save the life of somebody who they hear talking or acting strangely. Somebody could come and tell you that, look, do you know that attack we had in Gudumbali? When I dream, I'm always seeing it. You remember that my colleague that was killed? All these are triggers. All these are symptoms that this guy needs help. He is not a madman in any case. A PTSD person is not a madman, please. I am not a clinical psychologist or a medical, but I am looking at it purely from the point of view, because PTSD and military operations is a long research subject, which I think every military officer or every soldier should have a small inkling. Again, with due respect, like I said, it's not as if the system was not doing anything. I could remember in 2019, 2020, at the Nigerian Army School of Infantry, I was invited on 1 or 2 occasions to come and deliver lectures. They used to do what they call when units go to the Northeast, when they go back, there was this arrangement where it is still on. They come to Nigerian Army School of Infantry in Jaji, Kaduna, where they are, giving some lectures. And I remember I was invited to give a lecture on PTSD, drug abuse, and suicide tendencies, which unfortunately soldiers are very prone to. Every other person who is not a soldier is prone to this thing, but a soldier who has deployed, the risk of him falling to this thing is there. So
right.
if that training is still going, I think it's a good thing to listen. And like I told them, some people go back and start battering their wives.
Group Captain,
go back and start
Group Captain Shehu, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, we want to thank you so much. We unfortunately have come to the end of the segment, but thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we certainly hope that a lot more work will be done in this regard within the Nigerian military. Have a good day ahead.